Welcome to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast, episode number 60. Today is week 2 in our live Facebook Q&A where I am talking about moving your offline business online. I share some platform ideas, some content ideas. I'm really excited about it, so let's jump right on in. I spent years building my interior design business, trying to do all the things. The marketing, the networking, the free content, spending thousands of dollars on training and education, only to see minimal growth. After years of frustration, I finally started to ask, what am I missing? I had the systems in place for powerful growth. I had amazing clients. I had determination, drive, and commitment to spare. And yet, I wasn't seeing the success I desired. What if business is not about the doing? What if building a powerful business requires both powerful systems and something else, something deeper? I'm Amy Van Meel, and I'm on a journey to discover that something else. If you are ready to build a powerful business and do it knowing that your success is inevitable, join me as I share both the powerful systems I know work and my lessons and revelations as I discover that something deeper. Welcome, Changemaker, to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast. Okay, so let's have a talk about moving your offline biz online. So offline businesses, let me backtrack a moment. Last week I talked about how you could potentially move your service business online. My focus is primarily with service businesses, but I know that many of you have different types of businesses. Maybe it's more product-based. Depending on how you like to do your business, you might be a bit more focused on meeting people face-to-face or having that, that personal touch. So if you're not familiar, one of my businesses, the one I've had the longest, is for interior design. Obviously, I'm not meeting with clients right now, but I still have client work. So how can I still do my client work? How can I still provide a great experience? How can I, do all the things that we need to do when I can't meet with them? And not only that, I'm not going out to suppliers to source materials. So that one is still a problem I'm noodling on. If you saw last week, you'll know I was noodling on it then as well. So this week I want to talk about in a more broad sense of moving your offline biz online, and talk about a couple of platforms that you could use to do that. So if you think about, let's first sort of have like an idea of an offline biz, because many of you probably have a website for your business already. You may have some kind of, social media account or something where you're generating that online content. People can find you, they can contact you, but you're very likely not selling items online. There are a phenomenal amount of businesses actually that sell products that don't sell products online. And to me, that's just like we got to do more on this, right? We got to get you guys online. We got to get you selling. Now, depending on where you're located, I do know that there are countries around the world and certain locations within countries around the world that have not only do they have a stay-at-home order, but also they can't ship products. So with understanding that you can't ship products, but also knowing that some of you may not have product-based businesses, you may have service-based businesses, that's why I want to talk about this whole idea of how we can move your business into an online option. So I'm going to do my best to gather my thoughts here this morning. I apologize, y'all. It's been a crazy week, and tomorrow I have a less heavy day, and I have no plans for the weekend. But it's been a heavy week, so I'm feeling a little bit today. All right, so let's talk about a couple of platforms. Let's get the technology a little bit out of the way. There's a number of things. If you already have a website, fantastic. No matter what platform you're located on, I think it's phenomenal that you have a website already. I would encourage you to have a look at the platform that you're using. And when I say platform, WordPress is a platform. Squarespace is a platform. Shopify is a platform. WooCommerce is a platform. Platforms are basically, the way that I like to describe it, if you think about a car, if you think about the frame of a car, a platform is the framework. It's what allows you to build onto it, right? not going to get into the technical of like themes and all the rest of it, apps and widgets and whatever. But a platform is basically the structure of what hosts your website. So depending on what platform you're on, many platforms, if not all at this point, will have some way to offer a sales component so that you can either sell products or sell your services online. People can purchase them online, right? If you don't have that option yet enabled on your website, go have a look at the platform that you're using, because I'm quite certain that that's going to be an option available to you. So, barring that, if you don't really have a full website yet, or if by some chance your website, the platform that you're using doesn't allow the sale of products or goods, then let's have a talk about a few platforms you could have a look at. I've used a number over the years. The ones that I have active right now are through WordPress, Kajabi, and Shopify. Those are the three platforms that I have right now. WordPress is far and above the most customizable, but WordPress is also the most difficult. So if you are not tech savvy, if you don't know anything about programming, like building websites and adding widgets and doing all those things, then I would recommend that WordPress is probably not a good fit, especially we're dealing in a time where there's great stress already, and you probably have additional stress in your home just with people being around, or maybe people don't have jobs in your home. I'm not sure. If your business is challenged, that's also very stressful. So I would not recommend WordPress in this case. When I built my WordPress site, it took me 2 months, literally 2 months, like 40 hours a week. It was ridiculous. I was so stressed out. I was just like beyond myself. I did finally make it. I was very proud of how it turned out. But it took a phenomenal amount of work. So I definitely don't recommend that. However, and the only reason I start with WordPress is that if you are tech savvy, if you're familiar with building on platforms like that, WordPress is a phenomenal way to go. I would go with WordPress.org, not WordPress.com. If you're not going on WordPress, it doesn't matter the difference, but definitely go with WordPress.org. The other platform that I use right now primarily is Kajabi. So Kajabi, Kajabi.com, Kajabi.com. Kajabi is more specific for, think about online course creation. So Dare to Begin, obviously I do a lot of training, I provide a lot of education. I have online courses available for purchase. The Profit Power Pack is one of those courses. Kajabi allows me to host a website, so I can have, if you go to daretobegin.net, you'll see that the site itself is hosted. You can move around. There's, the podcast gets hosted on there as well. You can see all those different things I can do. Landing pages and downloads and signups and stuff, but it also allows me to have a student portal. And the reason that I went with Kajabi, because in all honesty, I had looked at using WordPress for that. There was a fairly expensive plugin that I needed to use for WordPress, which in all truth is way less than what I pay for Kajabi every year. But it became very difficult to use. It was really not intuitive to set up, and there's a point at which there's too much friction, right? So there was too much friction for me to try to figure out how to set that up on WordPress. So I moved over to Kajabi. Kajabi makes it all very easy. You have the back end. Every website has a back end, your admin. And the back end is where you program everything, but I can easily upload videos. I don't have to worry about adding layers of security, because within Kajabi built in, it already it requires first of all, it requires a purchase in order for someone to be able to actually get the login to sign in, and then it requires them to sign up with a login. You cannot access the student content without having first purchased an item and then logging in. If you are listening and you are part of the Launchpad, you may know about my Launchpad program, which is a free training. You didn't have to pay for that training, but you still had to sign up. Right? So that's a free offer that I have, but you still have to sign up to do that. And so that allows it then that when someone goes through the sign up process and essentially goes through, like, air quotes, the checkout, it generates that sign-in code to move into Kajabi. So I use Kajabi for Dare to Begin primarily because it just keeps all my content secure. I don't have to worry about potential leaks or haven't set up a security passcode somehow. It just gets taken care of. Kajabi, so whereas WordPress is free, with the exception of if you need to add paid plugins or widgets, Kajabi is much more costly. I think I pay around $140 a month, I'm thinking, in Canadian dollars. In US, it's less than that. But it's something that I know that just makes a lot more sense. It takes a lot of headache out of having the platform for me. The other platform that I'm using right now is Shopify. So Shopify is primarily e-commerce based. They are very specifically focused on businesses that deal with products, although you can definitely use Shopify to sell services as well. If you are, for those of you listening in the podcast, if you've been listening for a while, you probably have heard me talk about my Dare to Begin Enlightened Entrepreneur Shop, which is an experiment that I've been doing. And that experiment is hosted on Shopify. Essentially what that shop is it's products. I have some print-on-demand products available. I talk in another podcast about why I focus on print on demand, but I want to just try my hand at a product-based business, kind of play around with the Shopify platform a little bit, get some experimentation in and see, what's working, what's not working, that kind of thing. In all transparency, I haven't been super active with promoting the Dare to Begin Enlightened Entrepreneur Shop. So if you're interested, if you head over to daretobegin.net/shop, there's a landing page that will take you into the Shopify platform. Now, I want to just add one small technical note here with regards to that. My main site for Dare to Begin is hosted with Kajabi, which is what I've already said. The Dare to Begin Enlightened Entrepreneur Shop is hosted on Shopify. They are two separate platforms. They do not talk to one another. There's no communication between the two of them. However, the way that I set it up to move around that, and in order to make a URL that's easy for me to say, like the daretobegin.net/shop, that custom URL I can create through Kajabi quite easily. So I have the shop built on Shopify, and then I have a landing page on Kajabi. That's that URL that I give you. You go there, you click a button, and it directs you over to the shop. It's intended to be that way. It's a little extra step, which I know many web experts will tell you, don't add any additional steps for customers online. Because this is an experiment for me, was okay with that additional step, and it falls in line with a lot of the other things that I do. When I have free giveaways or free content, things like that, I give you a custom URL. For example, the Launchpad, the free program that I talked about, you would go to daretobegin.net/the Launchpad. That's how you would get there, and it would take you through the landing page or the sales page, whatever you'd see when you get there. So if you have a product-based business, I very much recommend Shopify. There's lots of product-based platforms that you can use. WooCommerce, I know, is one of them. I believe Magento is another one. I'm not familiar with Magento at all. My experiences through Shopify, I find them really, really easy to work with. I find the platform pretty easy to use. Again, because I haven't worked the other platforms, I imagine they all offer a similar thing where you can have an online site that's hosted there. And I lost my train of thought there for a moment, y'all. You can excuse me, you can have your online site, like your website, through Shopify. There are some limitations through Shopify, and when you move from one platform to the other, right, that's going to vary. Some of the limitations with Kajabi, for example, is that I can't sell products. One of the limitations that I find with Shopify is that I can't easily do a landing page. So there's trade-offs, which is why I'm experimenting with Shopify and having that separate shop, but also keeping my main site hosted with Kajabi, because there's some customizations that I require in there that make it easier. So those are just some things to think about. So that's some of the tech. I could go deeper into the tech. I mean, I've been dealing with the tech quite a bit over the last few years, and the more that I use it, the more that I learn. If you have specific questions about technology or about platforms, my suggestions for platforms, I mean, truly those three are the top of my list. In all transparency, I have used Squarespace in the past. My design business, my interior design business, was hosted with Squarespace originally, and I moved it over for various reasons. So I understand that Squarespace has improved a lot in the last few years, but I haven't used them probably in about 3 years. 2 years? 3 years. Not sure. It's been a while. So anyway, if you're thinking about Squarespace, by all means, check out the different platforms. Most of them have an option to do a free trial, so you can test it out, see what you like. Yeah, that's about all I'm going to say about technology, because we can go on for hours, and I don't want to go on for hours. So let's talk about, some of the things that we're talking about in terms of moving your offline business into an online realm. I want to focus on two things in particular. One of them is the fact that I know there are some businesses right now that their perception is there is no sales opportunity. All right. I had a conversation with someone the other day that sells women's shapewear. And they basically said nobody's buying shapewear right now because nobody's going out, which is, that's fair. That's a valid point. But that's a story, that's a belief that you're telling yourself, which is stopping the conversation dead. It means that basically the way you're looking at your business is that you can't serve people if they're not going out, if they're not being active. And I would say that's something that you want to definitely have a look at if you have a belief like that, this product that you have, you can't sell right now, or the service you have, you can't sell right now. Because it's just a stopper, right? It just cuts the legs out underneath the business right there and then. I think there's always ways to move around things, which is why I started hosting these live Q&As. And I would encourage you, especially if you're listening on the podcast, if you have some questions and if you can't catch it live, that's totally fine. I get it. Feel free to email me questions to amy@daretobegin.net. Send them to me there. The reason that I wanted to have these sessions live versus just sending out a podcast every week is that I wanted to be here. So if you have questions about, how can I move the business, Amy? This is the business I have. How do I adjust it? How do I change it? I wanted to give you the opportunity to ask the question. So if you're tuning in live right now, you have questions about your business, please write them in the comments. That'd be fantastic. And for those of you in the podcast, if you can't tune in live, send in your questions, amy@daretobegin.net. So taking your business from where it is now, where it may be primarily an offline business, think about how you could use that into an online sphere and get creative here. One of the really cool things about what's happening in the world right now, stay with me, this is a cool thing, is that it's giving the entire world an opportunity to really rethink everything that they're doing. It's giving you a phenomenal opportunity to rethink, how are you talking to your customers? How are you building your business? What are you doing to get the word out there? I spoke with someone the other day this is such an interesting point to me. Not because it was right, but because they were just so stuck in their story of there's no point in going online because the only way to be successful online is to have paid advertising, and I can't afford that right now. We're not making any money. Full stop. That's it. I mean, that just cuts the legs out from underneath you. On the other hand, I heard a phenomenal story from one of my colleagues the other day about someone that they knew that had created a free download. And I think it was something like Bleach, Pray, Love or something. And essentially, or not a free download, so it was a paid download. They had created this download to basically show people how to clean their house or how to keep things clean. I'm not quite sure exactly. It was such a hit. They literally sold enough that they've paid off their student loans in a week. Let me just rephrase that. In a week, they paid off their entire student loan debt. They had tens of thousands of dollars that, they owed, and they paid it off simply by providing something that people need right now, right? Tips on how to do it for an inexpensive amount. I mean, those are the kinds of things that are really winning right now. If you're thinking about well, Amy, I don't know how to pivot my business. I don't know how to do things online. What are people looking at? Think about, if there was no chance for the rest of your life, maybe this is a bit drastic, but let's say that for the rest of our living lives, Lord help us if this is the case, we don't ever get to leave our houses again, right? We're always stuck in our house. What could you do to still build your business and help customers out? what could you do? I always think about massage therapists and chiropractors, because to me, those are like, you have to be hands-on, right? But what could you do to offer a phenomenal service for your clients that they can still take care of themselves while they're at home? I spoke last week in last week's Q&A about someone doing yoga and meditation classes. And for the most part, people like to do those in person. Totally get it. But what if you could do those online? More and more, I know we've been starting to do this as well, but I see lots of people are doing this. They're hosting, this is like just from a social side of things, they're hosting happy hours over Zoom or Skype or Google Hangouts or something, where people get together and you're not together, right? You're not in the same room, but you're virtually together. You can see each other on the video, like you can see me right now. I can't see you, but you can see me. And so on something like Zoom, for example, you can all be on video. So you still have a bit of that connection. It's not perfect. It's not ideal. It's not the same as being in person, but it's a hell of a lot better than sitting by yourself and never seeing anybody and interacting with anybody. So, what could you do? Could you do sessions with people where you move them through certain exercises to keep them active? Maybe you're not billing at the same amount that you normally would be billing, but could you offer it to people at a lower rate and maybe for less time? So for example, if you were a chiropractor or a massage therapist, what are some things that someone can do at home on their own that maybe you can walk them through, right? How amazing would that be if you can reach out to your customers and say, we get that everybody's at home right now. And typically, normally you'd come to see us in the office, but since that's not a possibility right now, we still want to serve you. So here's the offer that we have. Some people may not take you up on it, and that's okay. Some people might, and I can pretty much guarantee you those people will be loyal customers for life, because what an amazing gift that you recognize they still need help, they still need healing, they still need, something. They're at home already. They're probably moving a lot less than we normally are. So what can we do to support them in that, right? You've just built a customer for life. I touched on this briefly with the success story that I told you about with the girl with the free download. But if nothing else, if there is literally no way to sell a product right now, there's no way to sell content or like a virtual session or something online right now, if there is zero way for you to do any of that, then let's focus on content. So when I talk about content, my podcast, I keep looking over to my right, probably to you it's on the left, but to me it's on the right because my computer's here to recording the podcast. My podcast is my free content that goes out every week. If you're checking me out live on Facebook right now, you're not familiar, Dare to Begin Small and Mighty is the podcast. You can find it on basically any podcasting platform that you might listen to. I listen to everything on Spotify. I know lots of people listen on iTunes, but you can find it on there. The podcast goes out every week, and I do my best to make sure that on the podcast, on every episode, I bring some really great information. I try to, it runs the whole range. If you're tuning into the podcast, I go everywhere from business strategy to digging into some of the deep personal growth side of things. All of those are important. When you're working on a business, all of that's important. You can't do one without the other. And if you think that I'm lying, go ahead, start a business and let me know if you ever learn anything about yourself. Because let me tell you, you'll learn a lot about yourself when you start a business. So personal growth and business are very much intertwined. But my point is that the podcast is the content that I put out. I do my best, like I said, to make sure it's high value content that I put out. This Facebook Live that I'm doing is it's another stream of content that I'm putting out. Again, it's free content. You don't have to pay to join in and watch me and hang out with me on the Facebook Live. But I do my best to make sure that our time together has high value for you, right? So those things are important to me. So if you can't sell online, if you can't provide some kind of a service that you can do through a video call online, then right now, focus wholly on providing some amazing content, all right? I have the opportunity to get to like talk to a number of different business owners, which is really lovely. I really like it. And I see business owners across the range. I saw a really neat business yesterday that had like a sanitation case. It was like something that you put your phone into and it used UV light to kill the germs or something. Anyway, it was fascinating. The product itself was quite fascinating. It was a one product store. That's it. That's the only thing that they sell. But they did a really nice job on the site. They had a clear idea of why they wanted to offer it. It's a perfect time in the world to offer something like that. I mean, come on, how much more perfect could this timing have come together for that store? But I've also seen stores, for example, that do pleasure devices, where maybe they can't sell right now because they can't ship a product out. So, getting into the other side of the business, if you have a business that is extremely niche, which is perfect, having a niche business is a fantastic thing to have, and I highly encourage it. But if you have something that's very niche, like a pleasure shop, but you can't sell online right now because you are not permitted to ship from wherever you are, then put out some amazing content. Everybody's at home. Most people, if not, not all of us, because I know, like for me, for example, my guy still goes to work every day. I point over there because that's where the rest of the house is. He still goes to work every day. So it's just me at home every day. But that's not the case for lots of people. Lots of people, everybody's at home. Maybe the kids are at home, whatever. So, for example, for a shop that sells pleasure devices, put out some amazing content. Give them some ideas about how can they bring some spice into their life. What can they do to, zhuzh up the bedroom? What could they do to make it more fun? If you're at home with each other all day long, there might be a point at which you don't want to be around each other. So maybe sex is off the table. But how can you, what can you suggest? What can you offer people to say, this would actually be a really amazing opportunity to build a deeper and closer relationship with your lover, right? What would that look like? Give people some tools. If you literally cannot sell anything right now, then use the opportunity right now to serve. Give as much value as you possibly can. Get your butt busy on putting out a podcast or putting out a blog or sending out an email newsletter to your customers or posting on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or I don't care, but just get out there. Get people starting to know you. If your business isn't selling right now, then you're not busy fulfilling orders. You're not busy meeting with customers, which means a bunch of your time has probably opened up. So use that time to provide high value content for your customers. They will love you for it. And in the case of having a sexy shop, they'll love each other for it too. So I think that's really important. I want to wrap here because I could talk about this for hours. And definitely, like I said, if you haven't gotten the chance to catch me live here, and you still have some questions or you have questions after you've seen the live, you can always email them to me, amy@daretobegin.net. But I would very much encourage you, whatever your business model is right now, to consider how you can take that business model and turn it into an online business. So we talked a little bit about platforms today. We talked about, putting out some really amazing content. One quick note that I want to touch on, and I briefly touched on this with the gentleman who said, the only way to succeed online right now is to do ads, and we don't have the money for that. Check your stories. I talk about stories on the podcast. I think it's one of the earlier episodes, probably in the first 10, where I talk about, the stories that we tell ourselves. A story is basically, you had an experience, you developed a thought around that, you said that thought over and over and over again to create a belief. That belief is a story. So a story could be something like, the only way to succeed online is to be using paid advertising, and we don't have the budget. That's sort of two stories in one, actually. One of them is that you can only succeed online if you pay for advertising. And the second one is that you don't have any money to pay for advertising. Now, if you're not familiar, I would highly recommend checking out Jim Fortin, because he talks a lot about being the thinker of our thoughts, and he touches very specifically on this idea of Because in all honesty and all transparency, I was challenged, and I still struggle at times with the thought of I don't have money to pay for these things, and the reality of looking at my bank account, right? Because and I think that's where a lot of people who are struggling to move their financial position forward, they get into that place where they look at their bank account and they're like, it's not a belief that I don't have money. I can see in my bank account that there isn't enough money. So, how do I move around that? So Jim Fortin talks about that in depth. He has a phenomenal podcast. I think it's called the Transform Your Life podcast. Not quite sure. Anyway, if you could look for Jim Fortin, you'll find him. But I digress. I want to just touch on the stories. Check the stories that you're telling yourself. So if, for example, let's take the pleasure shop, for example. Let's say, for example, you have a story in your mind, and this would be funny and kind of contradictory, but let's say you have a story in your mind that pleasure devices are dirty, that it's not okay for people to use them, and they should be ashamed for using them. Let's say that was a story that you had. And maybe you have this idea like, well, it's okay for other people, but it's not okay for me, right? I grew up Catholic, y'all. I know what it is to have had the guilt be handed into you and drilled into you from the moment you were born. It's exhausting. But that is a story that is not going to serve you in your business, and it's not going to serve your customers. So rather than saying like, using pleasure devices is a bad thing and people should be ashamed for using them, why not? So check that story, because that story is going to stop your business dead. So start to, work on that. Do the inner work around that. What if your story instead became, this is an amazing way for people to build intimacy with themselves and with their partners, and we want to encourage more love and joy and adoration in the world. What a fantastic way to move out into the world and say, like, this product can do some amazing things for you. And we're not above saying, go have a good, sexy time. This will help, right? There's nothing wrong with saying that. So that's what I would encourage you. Like I said, check out the platforms. If you're not online already, I very much encourage you to get online. I had a strange dream last night whereby suddenly, all of a sudden, just the whole COVID-19 situation was done. Everybody was coming out. There was fireworks around the world. It was a very weird dream. And I remember thinking, like, it can't be over already. Like, how do we solve the disease? Nobody's talked about that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So we're probably going to be in this situation for a while. Even if the stay-at-home order gets lifted in the next little while, there's going to be some fallout from this. So use this as an opportunity. I have been saying this for weeks. This is such a phenomenal opportunity in the world, and I highly encourage you to take up on it, because if you don't, you're probably going to be kicking yourself in 6 months or a year or 2 years that you didn't do anything around here. All right? That's it for me for this week. If you've been on the podcast, thank you so much for joining me. If you joined me live today, thank you for joining me on the live Facebook feed. Feel free to submit your questions next week you can submit them by email, amy@daretobegin.net. Otherwise, join me live next week. I'll be here again Thursday, 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on the I Dare to Begin Facebook page. I'm not quite sure what the content is going to be focused on next week, but the idea is that these are Q&As. So if you have any questions, please do post them. And if you're wondering that I haven't answered any questions, it's because nobody's posted them. So I'm just sharing some amazing content. And we'll talk about that next week. What to do when you're planning on doing something like this, but nobody has questions. How do you roll with the punches? All right. Have a phenomenal rest of the week. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope you are staying safe and healthy and just enjoying some time on your own. Bye for now.
Are you tired of figuring it out all on your own? Of sitting in overwhelm, knowing that you're not moving forward, but having no idea where or how to start? Are you ready to learn effective, profit-supporting strategies for your business so that you can finally earn the money you desire and step into the freedom that you're working so hard to create? If so, I invite you to join me inside the Launchpad. You'll get instant access to free training designed to meet you where you are right now and propel you forward toward the dream that you hold in your mind. It's time to make a powerful move toward your future. Time to step up and serve the people who desperately need your help. Let's not keep them waiting any longer. Today is the day. Join the Launchpad now. Just go to daretobegin.net/the Launchpad and sign up. Your success is inevitable. Now, let's launch it.